Alright. We're taking all the best old school wisdom and blending it with the top new school methods to bring you the optimal coaching strategies. This is the 80-20 Baseball Podcast with Coach Bo.
Welcome 80-20 baseball community. This week in our get together, we are going to grow our coaching toolbox. We're going to continue to sharpen our saw. It is great to be here with all of you. This week, the final habit in our 7 Habits of Highly Successful Coaching series, the top 5 coaching tweets of the month. And there are some really useful messages in our top 5 tweets of the month from the coaching community. And instead of 5, I actually have 7 tweets of the month, 2 bonus tweets of the month. And in part 1, we're going to do a segment to start with 5 quick coaching points / observations. Before I jump into that, I recorded an interview last week that will be coming out, that will be published next week as part of next week's episode. Fired up Coach Jared Slater. He's a up-and-coming strength and conditioning coach who I think has a really great message for youth coaches. So excited about that. I think the interview went really well, and that'll be coming out next week. Now, a quick review of last week's episode. I shared out 2 pregame tips. Go back, listen to that. Those 2 pregame tips I think are very useful for shaping your paradigm, your operating system, so then you can just plug in whatever you need that fits in that paradigm or in that template. We also discussed a pitching quote from one of the greats, one of my favorite quotes that we've shared out, Greg Maddux, keeping it real. And we discussed habit number 6 of the highly effective coaching series, synergy. Transparency and genuine openness drive synergy, open-mindedness, and cultivating an open-minded attitude with our team, with our parents, with our players, with ourselves, with our assistant coaches. That leads to better flow, to better synergy, whether that's working with assistant coaches on a group message, an email thread, staying on the same page so you can be in sync, or getting input from parents, or doing fun non-baseball activities, outings with the team, especially those that might involve teamwork, having players share out about themselves. Connection and transparency leads to better synergy. It's not just turning a faster double play. Synergy is much deeper than that. And I shared out some tips, some strategies, specific things you can do to build that synergy. And thinking about last week's episode as we dive into this week's episode, synergy. That's what 80-20 baseball is all about. It's all about using all the wisdom out there in the baseball world and then optimizing it by combining it synergistically for exponential growth. I was thinking about this last week. I was thinking about habit number 7. As you can imagine, I'm thinking about baseball every day, all day. Things pop into my mind. I'm constantly scripting out these episodes. And the thought came to me that 80-20 baseball is all about using all the best wisdom out there in the baseball world, in the baseball coaching community, in the youth baseball coaching community and beyond, and then optimizing it by combining it synergistically for exponential growth. I think that's where we really separate ourselves here at 80-20 baseball. But I digress on that, and let's move to part 1, fusion. So there's these restaurants that have fusions. It'll be Chinese, Mexican food fusion, or Thai, Greek fusion. Now, I don't know if those actually exist, but you know what I'm talking about. You've seen these, or you've probably heard of these. Unless you live in a really small town, you've probably heard or seen or even gone to one of these restaurants that's like a fusion. They're fusing together. They're combining different cultures and different countries' foods. And I think we could all probably say with a lot of certainty that some of the best ideas in the world have come from combining multiple ideas together, and usually diverse ideas, almost from different areas, different walks of life, different areas of life, different industries, and merging them together. And we've talked about that on this. Fusion is good with food. It's good when it comes to creating or inventing a product that might change the world. In the baseball coaching world, with many coaches, even good coaches, and this is what I've seen, they don't diversify their knowledge base enough. Of course, I'm speaking generally. I'm not speaking for every coach out there by any means. And I think that goes without saying. That's the very challenging part. And I think the first part is knowing that just because you copied Augie Garrido, and just because you copied Bobby Cox, and just because you copied Coach K, or just because you copy John Wooden or the great coach in your area, that doesn't mean they're doing what you're borrowing or copying or stealing from them the best. There may be somebody out there that's doing it better. And so what I've tried to do, and I talked about that just a second ago in the intro message to this, is we really try hard to combine all the best wisdom out there. And the challenge is, one, listening, reading, watching, hearing, seeing, being around all that, exposing yourself to so much wisdom, which I have over the years been able to do because of my path that life has taken me on. That's a huge challenge in and of itself. And then there's the challenge of vetting it and assessing and comparing one to the other and saying, that's a great hitting approach, and that's a really great hitting approach, and that's a really great hitting approach, and that's a really good one. Or that coach has had a lot of success with their hitters, and that coach has had a lot of success, or that program has had a lot of success with their offense. But then knowing what's the best way and what parts of those are the best. So the great coaches expose themselves to a lot of information, as much as they can consume in the finite amount of time they have. They try to expose themselves, listen, read, hear, watch, see, observe, be a part of high quality information. And that usually starts with those that are getting results. I should say those that are getting awesome, consistent results. And then using experience, first principles, etc., to know how to fuse it all together. So fusion, there's some good fusion food out there. There's some terrible fusion food out there. It's great for coaching. It's great. It's the way to go. If you want to be the best coach, you got to fuse all the best information you hear together. Now, the challenge is, for most of you, is that you don't have the time to go get and listen and read and do all that. The nice thing is you come here, and what I'm doing is going and getting it, and have been for 35 years, and then I'm questioning it. We're vetting it, and then we're comparing it against other strategies and methods to not decide which one's good or bad, because most likely they're both good, but which one's better. So I was thinking about that this last week. I saw a restaurant that had fusion. I want to say it was Thai Greek, a Thai Greek fusion restaurant. Now, I didn't go to it, but I thought maybe they took the best of Greek food and the best of Thai food, which are two really good foods, Mediterranean food and Thai food, and they took the best and they blended it together to make something even better. And with coaching, if you want to be a great coach, don't just borrow from one or two or three or four or five coaches. Don't even borrow from coaches. Borrow the idea. The idea could come from another assistant coach in the Little League in your area. They may know something more than the college coach in your town. Most likely not, but you never know. So a couple years back, I talked about Bob Hurley. I recommended the book, The Miracle at St. Anthony's. Bob Hurley, he was a high school basketball coach in New Jersey. He won 26 state titles and maybe 2 more as an assistant or a player, just an incredible amount of championships. And he took kids, inner city kids, and he turned them into very successful people for the most part. He had a lot of success molding kids into better people, and he won a heck of a lot. And I recommended everybody, this was years ago, go study Coach Bob Hurley, one of the greatest coaches of the last 100 years in America. Now, he was a high school coach. I don't know if any of you saw this, but the NC2A championship last week, Connecticut won. So UConn won the NC2A title. Did anybody catch that coach's last name? Hurley, Dan Hurley, Bob Hurley's youngest son. Bobby Hurley, the famous point guard from the 90s Duke team, he's now the Arizona State basketball coach. Just recently, I believe, signed an extension with Arizona State because he's been doing very well. So Dan Hurley won the national title. I don't know if you caught a lot of those scores. I didn't actually see any of those games, but I've studied their dad a lot. I've studied Bob Hurley Sr. a ton, and I know what he's all about. He's all about the 80-20. He's all about the full court press. You know what separated Bob Hurley Sr. from all the other coaches is, 1, discipline. And then 2, he ran a full court defense all game, every game, all year long. They ran a full court defense, full court press defense the entire season, every single game. From what I understand, it was pretty much 100% of the time. As stated in his book, they ran that like nobody else around. They got so good at a full court press defense. That was their 80-20. That probably brought them 80% of their success, combined with discipline, a very disciplined approach to coaching. And they just got incredibly good at defense, and more specifically, the full court press, and teams had no chance. And I don't know if you saw the scores of the UConn games, but the final score of the championship game, San Diego State, I believe, had 59 points, which is relatively low. And that doesn't surprise me. I didn't watch the game. I did watch some highlights, but a team that Bob Hurley Sr.'s son coached, who I've recommended on this podcast years ago to study, to go read those books, to go read The Miracle at St. Anthony's. It's a great book. His son, Dan Hurley, won the national title this year, and his other son is a very successful basketball coach as well, and they're doing it a certain way. Hockey game. I went to an Idaho Steelheads hockey game. So Boise's got an arena downtown, and they got a hockey team, the Steelheads. I'll tell you what, no flopping, no whining, no arguing, no bad body language. Oh, it was awesome. I hadn't been to a hockey game since January. I went to an LA Kings Edmonton Oilers game in January down in LA after I went to the national title football game. And it was really awesome to go to that game. Small venue, great environment. My neighbor told me when somebody gets a hat trick, they literally throw steelhead fish on the ice. So that's pretty cool. But what impressed me so much was there was no flopping, no whining. And here is what their head coach, Everett Sheen, said. He said, "We thought we did a really good job this summer." Now, let me back up real quick. The Idaho Steelhead, they play their home city's Boise here in Boise, and they've set the record for the most points in franchise history, the most wins, and I believe the most points and wins in league history. They've been dominating. I think their overall record is like 56-10. That's incredible for hockey. 56-10 and a few ties thrown in there. And this is what their head coach said. "We thought we did a really good job this summer recruiting a lot of talented players." And everybody knows where I'm going with this. If you've been listening, you know what the coach is going to say. And a good character group of guys. You could see it instantly in camp. They gelled right away, got along right away. To say we thought it would be this good of a regular season, probably not, but we definitely thought we'd be a top team and a top contender. I think this year, everybody has been on the same page. Synergy. I threw that word in there. Synergy. It doesn't matter who it is, what line you're on. Everybody has the same common goal. I think that's why we've been able to have so much success. Now, I read that article after I went to the game, but I was just impressed with the no flopping, no whining, no bad body language, no pouting. Just put your head down and grind. Even the ref, he got smoked. The ref, one of the linesmen, got smoked, and he was hurting bad. But man, oh man, did he play it off, because he knows the culture of hockey. We need more hockey culture in our world, and why not start to infuse it into baseball? Not allow whining, flopping, bad body language, low hustle, bunch of me players, I, me. No. We need more of that hockey mindset. So I had a good time at that game, and that was fun to watch. Jiu-jitsu. The lady at the front desk where I take my kid to jiu-jitsu was with her son. He was behind the desk, and he had a spring training hat on. And I said, "Hey, you guys went to spring training? How was it?" They're like, "Oh, yes, it was our first year going. We went to spring training this year. And before we even left to come back here, we already decided with the other family we went with that we are going to go back every single year." I recommended people definitely consider a trip to Arizona or Florida for spring training, a family trip. And I thought it was interesting. After I recommended that on the podcast, I was talking to the lady who runs the front desk at the jiu-jitsu gym. She said, "How can you go wrong with sun, baseball, and swimming? With sunshine, baseball, and swimming, it's a great time, especially if you're in a cold weather state, like I've said before." All right, my last point here in part one, my last observation of the week. I got a response to a tweet that was definitely different. It was out of the ordinary. It was rude. It was not a polite tweet. I got thick skin, so it didn't really bother me, but it caught me off guard because of the tone, the rudeness. Now, why am I bringing this up here? Because I wanted to share something that we can all learn from, and in fact, learn from this other coach. I couldn't get his name. He doesn't have a name or a location, and he has a handle, a 5-letter handle. I'm not sure. He doesn't have his name or anything or where he's located. He's got 1,000 followers, and he follows 1,000 people, and he's on there every day, and he's bad-mouthing other coaches, and he's calling them all out. Now, what I said was something very basic. I just said, I've coached a lot of 12-year-olds, a lot of 10-year-olds, a lot of 9-year-olds, typically that 10, 11, 12, 13, that lack the basic strength and mobility in their legs, specifically their hips and their abdominals and their all those muscles, and we're going to get into that more next week, to keep a pitching delivery that's healthy and supports their arm and keeps them in a stable position and reduces the stress on their arm. And I went on there and I saw that he was blasting all these big-time coaches on Twitter just at various times. Now, I like part of his message, and that was asking more questions, questioning what coaches are telling you. So if you're a parent or a coach and you have somebody in your area that's considered more knowledgeable or an ex-pro or an ex-college or even a college coach or somebody like that, I like the message that this coach that I'm speaking of had for a lot of parents, in that he was saying parents need to start asking more questions. They need to not just believe everything they hear, and that they need to be more inquisitive and ask more questions, more follow-up questions, more of why. Now, why is that? And why is that? So I did like that he was promoting and encouraging parents to ask more questions of these coaches that put things on Twitter or anywhere. Now, I thought his rudeness was out of line, thought he was immature. And so today I went on there and I saw that he put something about a coach being a cash over kids coach. I saw it actually before. He said it a different way, but he called a coach today a cash over kids coach. And then when I directly messaged him 3 days ago after he responded or commented on a tweet I made. I just reached out and asked him questions like, why does he think that? Basically, hey, why? I did what he wants everybody to do, and then he never answered my question. And guess what he told me? He said he would have to charge me a consulting fee. So he goes on Twitter and he's out there telling everybody that these are cash over kids coaches. They only care about the money, not the kids. They're not about the kids. I asked him, hey, can you explain a couple of these things that you were saying are not correct? And you're calling out some of these very successful coaches out there on Twitter that have had a lot of success with a lot of players. You're telling them that they're wrong. You're flat out telling them that they're wrong, but you're not saying why or what way would be better. You just say they're wrong, and then you don't follow up with a better way. And I asked him, I said, what's a better way that you found? No answer. And then he told me you'd have to charge me a consulting fee to learn from him. The irony there. So the message I wanted to share was that it's good to ask questions of coaches. It's good to question what's being shared your way. And if you follow somebody like that, that's always disagreeing and never posts things that are positive, never giving praise. Everything is negative. There's no praise. I would hate to play for that coach. I don't think that coach gives much praise at all. How can you go on Twitter all day and just spout rudeness and just basically go on there with a default contrarian mindset, negative, nothing positive, never any praise, never a compliment of other coaches, and then go out to the field and be some really positive coach, like be a totally different person? I don't see how that squares. All right, I got fired up with these 5 points. I thought these 5 observations from the week that came up and just kept coming. I'm like, I got to share this. The Dan Hurley, Bob Hurley connection, the hockey game I went to, the lady at the front desk at jiu-jitsu, highly recommending going to spring training with your family, with your kids, the fusion. I thought it's really good to fuse the best ideas. That's what we're doing here. Fusion of ideas. And lastly, discussing this coach on Twitter and how one of his points is spot on, and that, hey, ask more questions. Ask questions. Why is that? Why are you teaching it like that? You can be polite about it, but not just one why, but ask a couple whys. There's a famous strategy out there, 5 whys, asking why 5 times. So you get the first answer from a question. You say, why is that? They give you the answer. Then you follow up, why is that? Or why does that work like that? Or how is that? Or what do you mean by that? Or basically asking a version of why 5 times gets you on average to the root answer. On average. Again, sometimes coaches, if they're good, or sometimes people you're talking to, if they're really good and articulate and very transparent, they're going to give you the why right away. But it is good to get us thinking. And just because you have a coach blasting another coach in your area or on Twitter or what have you, just because they're blasting them, saying that they're cash over kids kind of coaches, doesn't mean that they're not cash over kids. I've been on here giving away almost 8.5 audiobooks worth of free knowledge. My website, 12 videos, 12 articles. I haven't charged any of you anything. There's no advertisements on any of it. So you can't come to me and say cash over kids. I even asked him, I said, hey, send me your podcast, send me your articles, send me your videos, send me your website. He didn't have it. None of that. He didn't have any of it. Of course he didn't. Anyways, I thought somebody'd get a kick out of that more than anything. Top 5 coaching tweets of the month. Number 1 by Lucas Quinn, LQ Strength Coach, at LQ Strength Coach. Kids will rise to the standards you set if you're bold enough to hold them to it. Setting rules is easy. Writing out rules and implementing rules is the easy part. Implementing rules is the easy part. That is by far the easiest part. By far the hardest part is holding them to those standards, those expectations. Next tweet of the month. These are in no particular order to rank them. They're all great. Patrick Jones, at P. Jones Baseball. These things ruin you as a hitter. Number 1, watching video of every swing. Number 2, not having a routine. Number 3, challenge yourself in practice. But now I think about it, this tweet by Patrick Jones very well may have been on last month's Tweets of the Month, but it was so good. That's probably why I added it, and also the months crossed over. This was just out, but it's March 4th, so I think I added this one. But I did have a tweet from this month that was connected to it, so maybe that's why I threw it on here. But Coach Patrick Jones said these 3 things ruin you as a hitter. Number 1, watching video of every swing. Number 2, not having a routine. Number 3, never challenge yourself in practice. Number 4, change your plan after a few games. Avoid as many of these as possible. It's such a good tweet. We can bring it back to you again. Watching video of every swing, not good. Watching video of your swing from time to time, good idea. Just don't overanalyze it. Have a routine. Doesn't mean you can't adjust that routine, but have a routine that you stick with and test out for at least 3 weeks to a month. His 4th point was never challenge yourself in practice. So in other words, challenge yourself in practice as a hitter. And the 4th thing he said that ruins hitters is change your plan after a few games. We got the 80-20 hitting plan. Stick with that. Stay with that. Work to be on time a little bit better. Work to get your swing technique a little bit better. Stick to that approach, that plan when it comes to pitch selection, and everything will be on the up and up. What I was tying into this was, these are the 4 things that you should do as a hitter to go with the 4 things that will ruin you. And this is a quote that I sent out was, swing at the right pitches, swing hard with less than 2 strikes. With 2 strikes, swing as hard as you can. And sometimes that's not very hard because you just got to make contact or battle it off, fight it off with 2 strikes. That's with 2 strikes. But with less than 2 strikes, swing at the right pitches, swing hard, swing on time, and get your swing on an optimal path angle. Next tweet of the month by Michael Schlacht at Michael_Schlacht. I like that last name. We need to let our kids fail. Taking away the hard doesn't make it easier in the long run. If we shield their pain, protect them from adversity, and rescue them from losing, we're setting them up for big time issues in the future. Preach on, Michael. That is gold. Next tweet, Athlete One Podcast, at Athlete One Podcast. Act like you've been there before. Drop the bat and celebrate with your teammates. This was in response to a hitter hitting a home run, hustling around the bases, and then celebrating back in the dugout. In comparison to a lot of the stuff we're seeing, these excessive celebrations, excessive bat flips on the field, towards the other team, and all that jazz. I responded by saying, hey, good message, coach. The dugout should be the near exclusive celebration zone. A little celebration and excitement on the field is natural and good, but 99% of celebrating is probably best done in the dugout with your own team. So that was my follow-up to the Athlete One Podcast message. All right, the next tweet of the month coming back with Michael Schlacht again. He said a yes, 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 no hitting approach in the box is always better than the alternative. Be ready to hit. You want the hitter to have a yes approach and then shut it down. I saw a hitter on Sunday in the Angels game, Ward, and he took 5 pitches, 4 balls, and a strike. Every single one of them was darn near a check swing. Now, the pitcher was throwing some really good stuff, some good sliders close to the zone, but he was ready to hit. He was yes, yes, no. So that's a great message. Hitters should be in yes mode, then to no. They should not be in no mode, then yes. And the 2 bonus tweets, Matt Hinckley. This is Matt Hinckley at MH_CSP_pitching. Good rule of thumb, teach pitchers to use range of motion that they possess. Don't force them into positions, ranges that they don't have, passively or actively. That requires an assessment. Pitchers, if someone is giving you mechanical advice without this information, proceed with caution. This is a really great point by Coach Hinckley. When working with pitchers, if their body physically can't do it, they might not have the strength, the stability, the mobility, the balance. You don't want to put them in those positions or try to get them into those or force them into those pitching positions, those delivery positions if they can't do it. And the last tweet by Mike Clark, PhD, Mike N as in Nancy Clark. This might be my favorite one of the bunch, and they were all good. Effective communication is a difference maker. 3 considerations. Does this need to be said? Does this need to be said by me? Does this need to be said by me right now? Timing can be just as important as the message itself. Timing and tone can be just as important as the message itself. I'll tell you what, you want to take a massive withdrawal on your rapport with players. You put them on blast in front of everybody. Now, if it's a safety issue or a blatant disrespect or bullying issue, yes, that needs to be called out, and that needs to be called out with a firm message and tone. But other than that, ask yourself, does this need to be said? Do we need to correct every mistake they make? Like every ball that they bobble, do we need to add something to that? I'm not saying you should go the whole practice and not coach up players on their skills and techniques and things like that, but we overcoach for the most part. We overcoach. I've been guilty of this myself. The other thing, does this need to be said by me, and does this need to be said by me right now? Timing can be just as important as the message itself. End tweet. That's a great one. That is great. Love it. Good stuff. Habit number 7, sharpen the saw. Often we are so busy with sawing that we forget to sharpen the saw. We must never be too busy to take time to sharpen the saw. End quote. Stephen Covey. Now, the good news is you all are here each week listening to our weekly episode. So sharpening your saw is something you're doing every single week. So you can be sharper coaches and able to cut through challenges faster, coach more effectively and efficiently while leaving a cleaner and smoother path behind. You're here sharpening your coaching saw. You're listening to this podcast. That's awesome. So you're already sharpening your saw, or you're building your toolbox out, or both, most likely both. We sharpen our coaching saws so we're able to cut through challenges faster, we're able to coach more effectively and more efficiently, and leave a cleaner and smoother path behind, just like a sharpened saw would. If you're a first or second year coach and your coaching looks 75%, approximately 75% or more the same next season than it does last season or this season, again, this is first or second year coaches. If your coaching looks 2/3 to 75% or more the same next year than this year or last year, then you are very likely not genuinely looking to improve. You're not sharpening your saw in an open-minded way, at least. And even if you've been coaching for 5 years, your coaching should look noticeably different / better at year 10. Sharpening your saw has priorities. There are priorities within this action, within this habit. We should seek first to improve our coaching skills that drive team culture, rapport building, a harder working yet more fun environment. That should be our main priority. We should first seek to sharpen our coaching saw in the areas that drive team culture, improve team culture, help to build better rapport, to increase the hustle and hard work in the environment, but also make the environment more fun along the way or simultaneously. The second priority is to seek to sharpen the saw of coaching by improving our ability to create and facilitate more game-like and more efficient training drills / scrimmages / pregame routines, etc. And the last priority of the main priorities, this is not the full list, of course. These are the top 3 priorities, but this is the third one. The third sharpen your saw priority is to learn how to better coach the pitching delivery, your catcher's technique, the receiving and the blocking and the throwing, and the hitter's swing. Note, infield, outfield, and base running are more rep-focused than technique-focused. At the end of the day, the best thing to do is create a game-like environment with great training drills that represent or replicate the game action, difficulty, challenge, and just get a ton of good quality reps and highly efficient reps that then carry over to the game. Let the kids learn by doing, less by talking and showing, but actually doing. Infield, outfield, base running are more rep-focused than technique-focused, in my opinion, than the pitching delivery, the catching technique, and the hitter swing. But there's definitely some variance to all of those, and it's definitely not black or white. Of course, the technique can be improved for all of these things, like I said, but it's a matter of how much time do you have and allocating it towards the things that will have the most impact on the game and player's career. So sharpen your saw by getting better at team culture building, rapport building, increasing the hustle and the fun in your practice training environment, your game environment, your pregame environment. Then seek to sharpen your coaching saw by improving your ability to create and facilitate a more efficient, game-like, high-quality training environment, training drills, scrimmages, pregame routines, etc. And the third priority is to sharpen your saw by learning how to coach up the pitching delivery better, the catching technique, and the hitter swing. And if you have a little time, fielding ground balls, catching fly balls, and the technique on the infield and outfield, and base running technique, if you have time. Or maybe with your own kid when you have more time with that versus having the whole team out there at an allocated practice time. That wraps it up. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Coaches series. Had a lot of fun bringing this to you. I got a lot of good feedback in response to this, emails, a lot of positive feedback, so that's awesome. We all know the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Those of you that have read the book, you know how life-changing building and working on those 7 habits can be. We just talked about 7 habits of highly effective coaches. Take these 7 habits out there, use them, implement them, and I promise everything will be on the up and up. Next week, speaking of up and up, we're going to up our game next week with an interview with Coach Jared Slater, who I believe is an up-and-coming strength and conditioning coach in the baseball arena, in the youth athlete arena. Next week, we will dive straight into the interview. I won't do or say anything at the beginning of the episode except a quick introduction of Jared, and then we're going to dive right into it. And I'm going to let Jared share out his thoughts on youth baseball and strength and conditioning. Head over and get the drill design guide if you haven't already. That's at 8020baseball.com. Got a dozen articles, a dozen videos over there. You can follow on the aforementioned Twitter, 8020_baseball. Support the pod by leaving a review or rating. At a minimum, just something takes a couple minutes, and it really helps. I would greatly appreciate that if you could just quickly do that right now. Email me your success stories. I want to go along with you on your coaching journey, so keep me updated. I get a lot of emails, so I do my best to get back and try to give a good quality response. I want to be there with you on your coaching journey. So send me your success stories, your questions, your emails, or if there's a topic you would like covered on the podcast, let me know. And until next week, take care of your health, your families, your close friends, and take care of the baseball community by taking these 7 habits of highly effective coaches and going out there and putting them into play. Put it into play, just like a good 2-strike approach. Sometimes you just got to put it into play. Go out there, put it into play, put it into action. And until next week, adios.
This has been the 80/20 Baseball Masterclass. Take it to the field.